TV6 carried a story about Vasant Bharat and Louis Lee Singh and Timothy Hammersmith and the rest of the dinosaurs, the fallouts, the wannabes, the has-beens, and 22 other people in Tunapuna, and says, maybe a third party is coming for 2020. And TV6 and Express knows the Progressive Empowerment Party exists, and they know that we've had hundreds of meetings, and they know that we may not have as many members of the PNM and the UNC now, but we are a real, genuine, authentic party.
But
we will launch on January 18th.
Because we in the media are trapped in the same mold. PNM, UNC. .40 in Trinidad and Tobago. A quick look at the Champlain area, where it also has that bright blue sky overhead, which makes it look very, very attractive indeed as we look at the camera of traffictt.com. But let's head back into studio for the final interview segment of our show this morning. It's been a packed show focusing on a lot of different issues, but let's finish up with politics, shall we? The political landscape with a lot of issues on the table. We have the finance minister presenting his mid-year review. That's going to be coming up on Monday. It will attract a lot of attention. We have so many other issues on the table. So let's get the perspective of Phillip Alexander, the leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, not the People's Empowerment Party, which I said erroneously yesterday and was corrected by Janice Leamont, who was talking in a different capacity about coaching and so on. But as we subsequently found out, she is the Imelda Marcos of the political environment in Trinidad and Tobago, given the fixation with shoes. But Phillip, good to see you once again. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Nice lead-in. I don't know where to jump in on that. I will leave Janice and her shoes alone.
Should we be worried if you come into office and all the money go towards shoes?
Janice's shoes, not mine. I have 2 pairs of shoes.
All right.
I just put that on the table.
No problem.
Yeah, but you had a real packed show this morning, and we were here from early. And I must tell you, I enjoyed the off-camera room. I enjoyed the conversation that happened. You had such a wealth of strong Trinbagonians. I don't know if this is your normal, but that room inside of there, that acting commissioner of police, Patsy Joseph,
yes,
she speaks community policing in a way that shows that she understands it. When Bill Bratton was here, when Gary Gifford was Minister of National Security, he brought Bill Bratton here and we were talking, we had breakout sessions. And Bill Bratton was explaining that that is how you fix anything. From a policing point of view, police have to go back.
So how come it can't fix? How come?
Well, and this is what I want to say to you. Well, I mean,
with all these good people that you just met in the green room.
And that's the conversation we were having. How could there be so many good people in this country, Fazeer?
You tell me, you're the politician.
But Fazeer, the obvious reason has to be that somewhere there is a control over what gets let into government. I tell people all the time, we could fix the government, we could fix the country. It's the politics that's the problem. The first time I got onto any TV show after the Progressive Empowerment Party was launched, everybody would ask the same question. Who's your base? Who's your base? In Trinidad and Tobago, that means which race voting for you. If these strong people in the media perpetuating that madness, how do we break it? How do we break this idea that black people have to vote PNM and Indian people have to vote UNC, and if you're not PNM and you're not UNC, you can't play? Because if we continue to make the same mistake over and over and over, aren't we going to end up in the same deteriorating place over and over and over?
Right, but we have to be given a viable alternative.
Look what you had today. You had Rondell Fields. Rondell Fields, when he formed the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, I watched there, because I know I was a single father, and I know how hard men have it as fathers in this country. It's ridiculous. We don't have support systems. Women, and this is not sexist, women are more intimate with each other. They share. Men have no emotional toolkits. So we have happiness and anger. That's what society tells us we're allowed. And then when you're a single father trying to raise these young minds, and under all the stresses that come with it, when Rondell Fields started, I said, great initiative, and it's not going anywhere. And I didn't expect that he would hold that course for this long. I have nothing but respect for him. Because after he got through with his own stuff and things, this Trinidadian normally would say, my business fix, I move on. Rondell's still in the trenches fighting. Sister Arlene, who's here, this is Dominic's home. The work that they do to give your life to that, she is so knowledgeable of the real world where Trinidad is concerned, and yet she has this responsibility to insulate these disadvantaged children and to prepare them for it.
So why, I understand all you're saying.
And I'm just saying, that's just what was, this Mr. Maraj, her father, he's there taking pictures of the screen of his daughter. We have rocket scientists in the country.
We have bright young people who will
have caring people with intelligence. We have so many good people, Fazeer. The question you're asking me, I had to ask you back.
No, you have to answer it. You are the politician. You are the one who is aspiring to some sort of political office.
I am in the trench. I am in the fight. I've been here for a long time. A lot of those people in that green room knew me because I'm a social activist for 20 years.
You think they will support you politically?
I can't say, I can't answer that. I don't know what they will support politically.
And you know, I mean, I understand the point you're making, huh?
No, I'm just saying to you
that
I have been an activist for over 20 years. I fought for the orphans, I fought for the homeless. You and I have spoken years ago about different things, long before we got to politics. For the disabled, we got the disabled parking spaces for the disabled in the country. We got the first subvention paid by the state for the orphans as the Jericho Project. We organize a party, an actual party in the Savannah every year called the Children's Funathon. That's where I know a lot of these people from. But when you in activism, you could ask Rondell, you could ask Sister Arlene, you could even ask Patsy Joseph, acting deputy commissioner. You could ask them and they will tell you what frustrates bright minds, good hearts, and right ideas is whatever is passing for leadership in the country. Look at this. I took this out of a newspaper in your waiting room, right? I want to show you this. This is the Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, saying TNT borders are on lockdown. That's a nice headline. You read the story, it's nice. This same Stuart Young was in this same chair a couple weeks ago when John Haynes was the host and told him and told the nation that we talking madness, that you can't secure the borders, that America can't secure theirs, we can't secure ours. And I said, but this man has to be a madman. Besides the fact that America is about 150,000 times bigger than Trinidad and Tobago. Gary Griffith, when he was Minister of National Security, had on his desk the actual factual plan as to how to secure the borders. And I want to ask Stuart Young, as Minister of National Security, which position is true? And it goes to leadership.
Okay, and it
goes to leadership.
Right.
The Prime Minister, in prosecuting the Ram Logan and Ramdeen matter on the hustings, which is ridiculous that he can do that, said that $1.4 billion is what he said. And he relies on people to be stupid and to take his nonsense and just leave it. He said $1.4 billion will pay for all the medicine in all the hospitals for 2 years. And I'm thinking, in that 2 years, we're going to spend $10 billion. When you talk about the budget review, they're going to review that. Every year we're spending $5 billion on public health. So if we're spending $10 billion, and $1.4 billion will pay for all the medicine, where do you see the $8.6 billion going? We're not building hospitals because that's IDB, that's China. This gentleman, he is a radiologist whose daughter was just here. He's a radiologist. There is investigative evidentiary equipment in Couva Hospital, lying down there for 5 years that we paid for. Forget UNC, forget PNM. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, paid for it. And it's lying there gathering dust while we go to build Arima and we go to build Point Fortin to fool people with projects and contracts, but not actually deliver service. And when you talk about the budget mid-year review, ask if 500 million pays the salaries for teachers. Why does it cost us 4.5 billion to run education? Where's the money going? Fazeer, Manning, Pandey, Kamala, Rowley, $1 trillion. Where it went? What do we have to show for it?
Buildings, a lot of buildings.
We spent $567 million.
A lot of funding, you have to pay people's salaries.
No problem at all.
Usual transfers and subsidies. That's why
I know you're a devil's advocate and I know you're answering me as a sycophant or a troll would answer me on social media, and you're correct. We spent $567 million for a study on a rapid rail. Panama spent $1 billion to double the size of the Panama Canal. Where does our money go? A video went viral in Trinidad and Tobago with this guy from Dubai in his red and white checkered headgear. And he's talking to this other guy and he's explaining to him that Dubai doesn't have what Nigeria has. Nothing like it. He's saying that you all have so much more than us. What we have is leadership.
Yeah, it's called tyranny.
No.
In Dubai, you cannot oppose the government and survive to tell the story.
And you may say that.
No, that's not. And he's saying that,
I'm saying to you,
that's a reality.
Okay, even if that is an absolute fact and a reality, the point is, what is the function and purpose of government? Because we don't have tyranny as yet. I mean, your Attorney General is writing laws that at some point, all of our rights and liberties will be gone, but that's for another conversation. But if we don't have tyranny, and we don't have leadership, and we don't have government, and we have all of these resources, and they call us the third wealthiest nation in the Western Hemisphere, but we have 700,000 people living below the poverty line.
We have 700,000 people living below the poverty line. Where you get that data from?
That's actual fact.
No, yeah, don't say actual fact. Where you get that data from?
That is in the public space, that's in the public domain.
What is driving it? No, don't go to that, Phillip Alexander.
Okay, so you give me 15 minutes. The next time I tell you, you ask me at the start of the show, you ask me,
was it topic? The point is now, you can't just throw out 700,000 people living under
Real Estate, Partner, Bagatelle, Mason, Covey, Rich Plain, Embacadere, Gonzalez, Belmont.
87% of the population are happy with the political system. I don't have no doubt, because people say that. I meet 8.7 people and they tell me.
From now on, Fazeer, I will only use numbers that I could verify.
So you like so what is it? You say you normally use numbers that you can't verify?
You need fact, and I will bring fact for you. No problem at all. You win that one. I want to tell you this. Let's have this one.
Yeah.
The education system in Trinidad and Tobago, every year, we have 20,000 children do the SEA. How many reach Form 5?
Not many.
By the time we neither of us have the numbers, but there is a lot of information in the public space, if you would allow that, that says along the way from SEA, we lose about 7,000 children who fall out over the years, and some that reach to Form 5 that come out with 0 passes.
Phillip Edward, you know all that you're saying here now is not making one iota of difference to the lunatics.
I knew that when I was getting dressed this morning. When that alarm rang this morning, I said, you know what? Why?
I was going to ask you.
Why?
Why? You're saying things that
why do it again? Why do it again? But I'm asking you because, and Mr. Maraj, when he asked me, he said, you think you're going to get through? I said, Mr. Maraj, like Rondell, like Sister Arlene, like Miss Joseph, the mission has to be to send positive ripples back at the madness.
How do you send positive ripples
by this conversation?
By insulting people's great leaders. That the Phillip Alexander, all he does do, even though he's talking the truth, he making sense. But why you have to insult the people so?
Because we don't get media time. Yesterday,
you must insult the people.
I'm not using this media time to insult nobody. You know what takes the Progressive Empowerment Party from obscurity to everybody knowing who we are? The fact that I am willing to stand up and talk that hard. And that's unfortunate, because we don't get this time. TV6 carried a story about Vassan Bharat and Louis Lee Singh and Timothy Hammersmith and the rest of the dinosaurs, the fallouts, the wannabes, the has-beens, and 22 other people in Tunapuna, and says, maybe a third party is coming for 2020. And TV6 and Express knows the Progressive Empowerment Party exists, and they know that we've had hundreds of meetings, and they know that we may not have as many members of the PNM and the UNC now, but we are a real, genuine, authentic party.
But
we will launch on January 18th.
Because we in the media are trapped in the same mold. PNM, UNC, maybe a third party. We're not really looking at anything different to upset the
and all of the journalists, and I tell you something, we have plenty good people as journalists in Trinidad locked in that mold. That 3 of the rights enshrined that speak to the right to political association, freedom of speech, those things are affected when the media doesn't just do its job. And one of those jobs, because I know mine, as I said to Mr. Maraj, my mission is to inform, educate, empower. That's my mission. Whether I never see public office or not is moot. What is important to me is that there are such a vast growing number of people now who can speak intelligently to issues, who didn't know. And they didn't know that they didn't know.
And how is that changing anything as far as the quality of governance in Trinidad?
There is a term in the language called critical mass. we will reach a tipping point at some point. I have to be very careful how I couch the next thing I say, because you will grab it and run with it. But we are either going to reach a tipping point, Fazeer, where Trinidadians make a healthy political choice for a change, or we end up like Venezuela, because we go in there.
Isn't that extreme? Isn't that the usual thing that people like to parlay, that, you know, we're going to be a failed state, we're going to end up like Venezuela, and yet still our neighbors up in the Caribbean, as bad as things might be here in Trinidad and Tobago, wish they were us?
The Minister of National Security, nobody wishes they were us.
Really?
Long ago.
Financially.
Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, you think they wish they were us? St. Vincent?
We have
Kitts,
we still have, as bad as it might be.
Dominica survived a hurricane and rebuilt itself. You think not even Cuba, maybe Haiti, and I'm not sure about that. Nobody wants to be Trinidad. We are the worst and the lowest on every scale. Stuart Young is saying this.
Really?
I'll give you the facts now.
Okay.
Stuart Young is saying, Minister of National Security is asking, where did this business tech insider group get their information from that Trinidad and Tobago is the 12th most dangerous country in the world? I said, brother, they have the same information the rest of us have. When your Minister of National Security stepdaughter is a drug lord and getting kidnapped and moving with gang leaders, you are the Minister of National Security. You're supposed to be like Caesar's wife. You're supposed to be above reproach in any other civilized country.
But he can't be held responsible for the behavior.
He absolutely has to be held responsible, because if he cannot secure his own home,
but if he's estranged from that situation,
he's suddenly estranged when they got into government. And I understand that the blue lights and the sudden fortune when everybody wants to blow smoke for you, people lose their relationships, and I get it. A lot of marriages fail in the second year after you win an election, because they're getting things offered to them that they never get before. And I understand that. But for a long time, this individual was your child that you were raising, and you had to know what you were molding. And I'm not trying to make it just about him. In the parliament, Terence the Alsing and this next one fall out and cuss out, and you cannot hold that much incompetence and madness. They know what they are a part of. Everybody in the parliament, in the cabinet, in the government, they know what they're a part of. I have never said that they are stupid people. I am saying to you, and I'm saying to Trinidad and Tobago, we've never had a government whose mission was to hold to the definition of government, that the welfare and the well-being of all the citizens is the function and purpose for government.
That sounds nice, Phillip.
It doesn't just sound nice.
It sounds nice, but come Monday morning, we're going to be sitting down here. What can we expect in the media review? And then Tuesday morning, this is what you get.
Because you and the media allow others to dictate the pace of the national conversation. The narrative has to be...
What should the narrative be?
The narrative should be, if you spent $5 billion on healthcare last year, what was it spent on? If our public health is so bad. If our children are failing, I want to draw you a reference, I ask all the time. If we spend $4.5 billion on education every year and our education system works, how could a ribbon of pitch separate Fatima College from Mukurapo Secondary? One is a prestige school and one is a failed school. How? Now the sycophants will jump up and say, I know 3 people who come out of Mukurapo and they're doctors. And I am not into absolutism. And I know that there will be some Fatima people who fail and there will be some Mukurapo that go on to fantastic. But generally, the play field is not level. And if you cross that ribbon of pitch, the same money that coming from the same education system that is helping, and they will tell you, well, the parents involved, we skirt some real nasty classism in this country. We're very racist when we have to defend how we have the bling that we have. But the fact of the matter is the education system does not work. That the SEA no longer serves any purpose in the country. It was for a time when there were not enough school places, so that you had to have a competition so that the brightest and the 20% could get placed. Now that we have enough school places for everybody, what's the point of the competition? If the Ministry of Education is functional,
it's a placement exam.
If the Ministry of
people have the right to choose.
Absolutely, that's actually one of the rights enshrined. So you're not wrong. But I'm saying this to you: if you now have enough places for every child, and the Ministry of Education knows what it is doing, why isn't every school a prestige school?
Because this is the real world.
What does that mean?
This is the real world.
What does that
There will
mean?
always be favoritism. There will always be inherent benefits for certain institutions.
But why would we have 20 prestige schools and all the rest also ran? That is not a simple thing to excuse with favoritism. The truth of the matter is, we are failing at the most important job of government, educating the children. Our next important job of government that you hear none of them talk about is jobs. I find out today we have 50,000 security guards. The fact that we have 50,000 security guards in a country this small says how badly managed this country is.
We have to take a quick break and we'll come back for a few minutes with Phillip Edward Alexander of the Progressive Empowerment Party. We'll be back right after this. Coming up towards 3 minutes after 8 o'clock, going a few minutes over as we continue our discussion with Phillip Alexander. But very quickly, I just wanted to highlight this. Go to page 81 of the Express to take note of this, because there's an area along the highway that there's going to be some work being done from the 11th of May, which is tomorrow, until the 29th. Which is the day before Indian Arrival Day. So you want to make sure that you're aware of what is going to be happening in the area of the Ministry of Agriculture and Baraka grounds, and you're going to have to do quite a bit of diversion. So just be mindful of that, please. So let me not take any more time from Phillip Alexander this morning in the time that we have available. I had asked you the question why, and some will say, well, okay, if it is that you're not aspiring to office necessarily, why you have the PEP? Why is it wrong?
Because
why is it there?
It's not enough to just come and say, the PNM and the UNC have had chances. I want to draw your reference. There's an article in the paper that says that they are studying how to widen Wrightson Road. And widening Wrightson Road is solving the wrong problem. That's treating with the symptom and not the cause. The cause of all Wrightson Road traffic is the 200,000 people that drives into Port of Spain and out of Port of Spain every day to work in government offices that should not be in Port of Spain. When Patrick Manning built all the government campuses and the waterfront and everything, those things, that money should have been spent decentralizing government out of Port of Spain so that people don't have to come from Marabella, San Fernando, Toku, Sangre Grande, wherever, to come into Port of Spain to work, and people shouldn't have to come from all those places, including Tobago, to go to a government office. The Progressive Empowerment Party drew an example. We made a reference. We've divided the country into 5 regions. We call them hubs: North, East, Central, South, Tobago. And if Trinidad and Tobago was properly run, there would be a government hub in North, East, Central, South Tobago. And you wouldn't need 250,000 people or 200,000 people to drive into Port of Spain, because all of them trying to come into the capital between 6 and 8, and everybody, 30,000 people trying to leave.
If it's so simple and so sensible and so straight,
they know.
Why isn't it done?
They
why?
know.
Well,
Suraj Rambachan knows, because I told Suraj, when Suraj took over from Jack Warner, I was the person who solved the Diego Martin bypass. When Jack Warner
was the person?
Google Phillip Alexander, Jack Warner, Diego Martin West.
Right.
I designed it. Nicole Dyer Griffith called me. She said, this will work. I said, let's talk. I went, I met with Roger Israel and the permanent secretary and Jack Warner. They came, they agreed, they did it. And it's solved. But they did half of it, and Jack was fired.
So why wouldn't a government want to do that, to make people's lives easier, to win more votes, to stay in power forever? Why you wouldn't do that?
Because we need to keep people distracted and caught up in the thick of thin things. We need you
don't think that people who be stuck in traffic all the time will say, you know, I'm fed up of this nonsense. It's time to get rid of these people.
Because listen, Ricky Garcia of the Congress of the People got water and roads paved in La Puerta for the first time in 30 years. And they couldn't wait to go back and vote PNM. I solved the Diego Martin traffic problem. I got water. TB6 carried. Keith Rowley, then opposition leader, and the councillor for the area, a woman named Mendez, I think, went before the Integrity Commission to take WASA to the Integrity Commission, because Phillip Edward Alexander got water for people in Rich Plain who didn't have water for 62 years. And Rowley, instead of representing them, went to say that WASA is playing politics. You do not have, when the PNM do not have to work for the vote in Lavantil, Morvan, Beetham, Silots, why would they do anything for them? Why?
Because it will ensure that you'll...
Who's going to come and take the vote? If we live in a country where base and race equal, who gets into government? Why do anything?
So what's the point of this discussion? Before we wrap up, what is the point of this discussion?
To get
other than you to vent your spleen and get all these things out in enough time for your live Facebook page.
Listen, even that, pal, there will come a day, I guarantee you this, one way or the other, there will come a day when that live that you talk about will turn off.
Serious?
I am not going to waste any much more of my life. As I was telling you just now, when you're an activist and you realize that a lot of the problems that contributing to the homelessness, the poverty, the orphans, that a lot of it has to be solved at the level of the government. We went and met with Kamala Prasad when the Parliament was in the Red House and presented her with something called the Second Chance Foundation for free. We went. You know, I ended up being Gary Griffith's communication advisor. I went to Gary Griffith.
So you were a stooge at one time then?
I wouldn't say I was a stooge. I say I work with a man that I respect. I went to school with him. But I went to present to Gary Griffith as Minister of National Security something called Literacy First. And Literacy First is a plan, and I'm telling Trinidad and Tobago now, ask your government for this, that anybody that wants a CPEP or HDC house or that get charged, when they appear before the magistrate or the court, let all of them order a literacy test. Because illiteracy is at the heart of a lot of our unemployment and our suffering and our crime.
And before we conclude, because we have to wrap up, Phillip Edward Alexander, with all of the things that you talked about, all of the many different ills, all of the many issues.
Just wake the people up, Fazeer, as
how?
jaded as you are. Because when people look at you, in the morning, I want to tell you, you are not the polished presenter that others prescribe, that required for a TV show. But people come to your show because they realize that even if you have to fight through, Fazeer, that you seem to still have a genuine interest for the country at heart. And like we agreed in that room this morning, when the people who have love of country stop speaking, that's when we're going to be in trouble.
I'm a better actor than you think.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks very much. More than welcome indeed. It's good interchange to finish up our program this morning. Hopefully you have found it provocative, if nothing else, and at least would stir up some
likes and shares.
Likes and shares. I'm glad you're good. That is what he's here for. Likes and shares. And somebody else is here for shoes, but we don't have any to spare this morning. Time for us to wrap up. We'll see you on Monday morning, God willing, from just around 6 o'clock. Take care.